I am Amanda, 28 years old, and I have always been the responsible one. The one who sacrifices. The one who works 60-hour weeks at my finance job while living in a tiny apartment so I can help my parents. They call me their lifesaver every time I send money. The gratitude in their voices always made the struggle worth it. Last week, I transferred another $400 their way, the third time this month. Then came that fateful moment when Mom forgot to hang up the phone. The moment I heard what they really thought of me. The moment everything changed. Before I continue this heartbreaking story, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe if you have ever felt used by those you loved most. Growing up in our modest suburban home in Michigan, I always felt like I had a specific role in our family of four. My father, Richard, was a tall, imposing man with a booming voice and a habit of jumping from job to job. My mother, Eleanor, was a petite woman with perfectly manicured nails who complained constantly about our financial situation. Then there was my younger sister, Cassandra, 3 years my junior, with her perfect golden curls and winning smile that could charm anyone, especially our parents. From my earliest memories, there was always an unspoken expectation that I would look after Cassandra. Amanda, make sure your sister gets to school safely, or Amanda, help Cassandra with her homework, were daily instructions. I never questioned this responsibility. After all, that was what big sisters were supposed to do, right? The pattern of expectations grew more pronounced as the years passed. When Cassandra wanted new clothes, she got them. When I needed new school supplies, I was told to be more careful with what I already had. Their justification was always the same. Your sister is more sensitive. You are stronger, Amanda. You understand. And I did understand, or at least I thought I did. I internalized the belief that being strong meant taking care of everyone else first. That love meant sacrifice. That family came before personal needs. By the time I turned 16, I had already started working part-time at the local grocery store. Initially, it was to save for college, but soon my paychecks started disappearing into the family fund. Dad would approach me with his head bowed, mumbling about a temporary shortfall or an unexpected bill. Mom would squeeze my hand and tell me how proud she was of my maturity. Cassandra would get a new pair of shoes. I worked through high school and continued sending money home during college. I survived on ramen noodles and coffee while studying finance, determined to secure a well-paying job that would allow me to help my family even more. The few friends I made in college would raise their eyebrows when I mentioned sending parts of my student loan money back home, but I brushed off their concerns. After graduation, I landed a job at a financial services company in Chicago, 6 hours away from my hometown. The distance did nothing to sever the financial umbilical cord. If anything, my increased salary only led to increased expectations from home. It was during my second year in Chicago that I met Will. He was a software engineer with kind eyes and a thoughtful manner. On our third date, he asked me why I lived in such a small apartment despite my good job. I found myself explaining my family situation, and for the first time, I saw my arrangements through someone else's eyes. That sounds like a lot of pressure to put on one person, he said gently, especially when your sister is an adult now, too. I remember feeling defensive. They need me. Dad has always struggled to keep steady work, and Mom never finished her degree. Cassandra is still finding herself. Will nodded but looked unconvinced. Just make sure you are taking care of yourself, too. That conversation planted a tiny seed of doubt in my mind. Was my relationship with my family unusual? Was I carrying a burden that most adult children did not? I pushed these questions away, reminding myself of the grateful voicemails from my mother and the Christmas cards signed to our guardian, Angel. Still, as Will and I grew closer, the contrast between his family dynamics and mine became impossible to ignore. His parents were self-sufficient, proud of their son, but never asking for financial support. They gave gifts on birthdays rather than subtle hints about bills that needed paying. Your parents are different, I would tell Will, whenever he expressed concern. Mine had it harder. They sacrificed everything for us growing up. The least I can do is help them now. But even as I defended my family, a small voice inside me wondered if I was right. If the love I felt for them was truly reciprocated in the same way. If their need for my financial support would ever diminish, or if I was trapped in this role forever. I silenced that voice. Family was family. Blood was thicker than water, and I would continue to be the daughter they needed me to be, no matter the cost to myself. For 5 years after college, sending money home had become as routine as paying my own rent. Every month, without fail, I would transfer funds to my parents' account. Sometimes it was a few $100s. Other times, when they called with particular urgency in their voices, it would be 1,000 or more. I kept a separate savings account specifically for family emergencies, which seemed to occur with startling regularity. The reasons for needing money had grown increasingly vague over time. In the beginning, there were specific explanations. A broken furnace during a harsh winter car repairs after Dad lost control on an icy road, or unexpected medical bills when Mom had bronchitis. But gradually the justifications became nebulous temporary difficulties, or just until next month. Next month would come and go, and the financial need remained constant. Meanwhile, Cassandra had reached 25 years old but still lived at home with no steady job. She had attempted community college 3 times, dropping out each time before completing a semester. According to Mom, Cassandra was too creative for traditional education and was finding her path. This path apparently involved a lot of shopping, as evidenced by the new clothes she wore in the family photos they occasionally sent. The last time I visited home, about 8 months ago, I noticed several new purchases around the house. A large flat-screen television designer cushions on the sofa, and a collection of expensive-looking figurines displayed prominently in the living room. When I casually asked about these additions, Mom waved her hand dismissively. "Just a few little things to brighten the place up. We got good deals." Dad nodded in agreement. "Your mother deserves some nice things after all these years of struggle." I wanted to point out that the struggle might be less severe if they managed their money better, but I bit my tongue. Who was I to judge how they spent their money? Except, it was partially my money, wasn't it? That thought made me uncomfortable, so I pushed it away. The first significant crack in my unwavering faith came on my 28th birthday. Will had planned to take me out for dinner that evening, but I had hoped to receive at least a phone call from my family during the day. By late afternoon, my phone remained silent. No call, no text, not even a message on social media. I tried telling myself they were probably planning a surprise. Maybe they would call during dinner with a group birthday song like they had done for Cassandra last year. I called them instead. Mom answered with her usual warmth, chatting about neighborhood gossip and Cassandra's latest interest in pottery. After 15 minutes of conversation with no mention of my birthday, I gently reminded her. "Oh," she sounded genuinely surprised. "Is that today? I thought it was next week." "Happy birthday, sweetheart. I will tell your father and sister when they get back from shopping." The call ended with her promising to send a card soon. No card ever came. That night, Will took me to an upscale restaurant with a view of Lake Michigan. He had made reservations weeks in advance and arranged for a small cake with a candle. I tried to enjoy the evening, but the silence from my family weighed heavily on me. They just forgot I said more to convince myself than Will. It happens. Will reached across the table and took my hand. "Your birthday deserves to be remembered, Amanda. You deserve to be celebrated." Then, to my complete surprise, he got down on one knee beside our table and opened a small velvet box containing a delicate diamond ring. "You deserve a lifetime of being put first," he said. "Will you marry me?" Through tears of joy, I said yes. For that moment, the disappointment of my forgotten birthday vanished in the glow of this new happiness. The next morning, I called my parents with the exciting news. Mom answered, and I could barely contain my enthusiasm as I told her about Will's proposal. Her response was not what I had expected. "Oh, that is nice, dear. So what does he do again, the computer thing, right?" "He is a software engineer," I confirmed, my excitement dimming slightly. "And that pays well, does it?" she pressed. "Those tech jobs can be unstable." Before I could respond, I heard Dad in the background asking who was on the phone. Mom told him, and then I heard his voice clearly as he took the receiver. "Amanda, congratulations. Will is a lucky man. Say, would he be interested in investing in a small business opportunity I have been exploring? With his technical knowledge and my business ideas, we could make a great team." I was taken aback. "Dad, I just got engaged yesterday. We have not discussed any business investments." "Well, keep it in mind. Family helping, family right." Speaking of which, that property tax bill came in higher than expected this quarter. Any chance you could help out a bit more this month? The conversation continued in this vein with more questions about Will's financial situation than about our relationship or wedding plans. Cassandra got on the phone briefly to ask if she could be a bridesmaid and to mention that she would obviously need a new dress. By the time I hung up, the warm glow of my engagement had dulled considerably. Will found me staring at my phone with a furrowed brow. Everything okay? Were they excited? I forced a smile. Of course. Just typical family stuff. But it wasn't typical, was it? A small voice in my head whispered that most parents would be focused on their daughter's happiness, not on how her fiancé might benefit them financially. I silenced that voice again, but it was becoming harder to ignore. That night, as I lay awake beside Will, I found myself wondering if my family would even care about my engagement if Will had been a struggling artist instead of a successful engineer. The thought made my stomach twist uncomfortably. Surely they would still be happy for me. Wouldn't they? Despite my attempts to push these doubts away, a sense of unease had taken root. Something felt off, but I wasn't ready to examine what that might mean. Not yet. 2 months after Will proposed, the financial requests from my family escalated dramatically. What had been monthly appeals became weekly, sometimes daily texts and calls. My phone would buzz with notifications that made my stomach clench before I even read the messages. Mom was particularly persistent. Her texts followed a familiar pattern, a brief inquiry about my well-being, followed by an increasingly desperate situation that only I could solve. Good morning, sweetheart. Hope work is going well. Our water heater just broke and the repairman wants $800. Can you help? We would be without hot water otherwise. 3 days later, Amanda, the car needs new brakes. The mechanic says it is dangerous to drive. Can you transfer $600? We would not ask if it wasn't an emergency. A week after that, your father had to see the doctor for his back pain. The insurance did not cover the specialist. We need $1,200 by Friday. Each time I transferred the money without asking too many questions. Each time the gratitude seemed briefer, the expectation stronger. It was no longer, thank you so much, you are our lifesaver, but a quick, got the money thanks followed immediately by updates on Cassandra's latest achievements or complaints about their ongoing hardships. Dad started calling directly when Mom's approaches didn't yield immediate results. His tactics were different, less pleading, more accusatory. We have not heard from you in 3 days, he said during one call, though Mom had texted me that morning. Do you not care about your family anymore? Is that fancy fiancé turning you against us? Of course not, Dad, I assured him, feeling guilty for no logical reason. I have just been busy with work. Too busy for family. I did not raise you to be selfish, Amanda. Your mother is worried sick about the mortgage payment due next week. That call ended with me promising to send another $1,000 money that had been earmarked for wedding venue deposits. Even Cassandra joined in with her own separate requests, always with the caveat. Please do not tell Mom and Dad. They have enough to worry about. She needed money for job interview outfits, for her car insurance, for a deposit on an apartment she was seriously considering, but somehow never moved into. Will began to notice the strain. One evening, as I hunched over my laptop calculating how much I could transfer to my parents while still covering my own expenses, he sat down beside me. Amanda, this is the 3rd time this month you've sent them money. That is $4,000 in 3 weeks. What is going on over there? I felt defensive immediately. They are having a rough time. Dad's back problems mean he can't work as much, and Mom is taking care of him. Will frowned. But last month it was car problems, and before that it was house repairs. There is always something, and it's always urgent. What are you saying? My voice rose slightly. That they are making it up? I am saying that you are planning our wedding while living like you can barely afford groceries. Meanwhile, your sister posted photos from a spa weekend on Instagram yesterday. Something does not add up. That sparked our first major argument. I accused Will of not understanding family loyalty. He countered that loyalty should not be a one-way street. We went to bed angry with a wall of tension between us. The pressure continued to mount. Wedding planning should have been an exciting time, but every decision became a financial calculation. Could we afford the venue we loved if Dad needed more money for physical therapy? Should we postpone the date to accommodate my family's latest crisis? The joy was seeping out of what should have been a happy time. I started taking on extra projects at work, staying late, and bringing work home on weekends. My boss was pleased with my dedication, unaware that it was driven by desperation rather than ambition. I picked up freelance financial consulting on the side, squeezing it in during lunch breaks and late into the evening after Will had gone to bed. The physical and emotional toll became evident. Dark circles appeared under my eyes. I lost weight as meals became hasty affairs or were skipped entirely. Sleep became elusive with nights spent staring at the ceiling, calculating and recalculating my finances, trying to figure out how to make the numbers work. Will noticed, of course. He would find me asleep at the kitchen table, spreadsheets open on my laptop. He would gently guide me to bed, his face etched with worry. "This isn't sustainable," he would whisper, but in my exhaustion I could only murmur that I was fine. I began avoiding family gatherings at Will's parents' home, making excuses about work deadlines. The truth was that I couldn't bear to see what a normal, supportive family looked like when mine was draining me dry. Each time his mother called just to check in without asking for anything, each time his father offered help instead of demanding it, the contrast became more painful. Then came the call that would be the tipping point. Mom's voice was tearful, shaking with what I assumed was genuine distress. "Amanda, I hate to ask again, but we are truly desperate. The property tax bill came with a penalty, and they are threatening to put a lien on the house. We need $400 today. I would not ask if there was any other way." Despite everything, despite the whispers of doubt that had grown louder, despite Will's concerned glances, I agreed. One more transfer, $400 that had been meant for my wedding dress alterations. "You are our lifesaver," Mom said before hanging up. "I do not know what we would do without you." Little did I know that those words of gratitude were about to be exposed as the hollow performance they truly were. "You are our lifesaver," my mother had said, her voice warm with what I had always interpreted as love and gratitude. Those words had sustained me through years of sacrifice and struggle. Those words had justified every extra hour worked, every vacation canceled, every dream deferred. Those words were about to be revealed for the lie they were. As I completed the bank transfer of $400, I heard Mom's familiar sign-off. "Love you, sweetie. I will call tomorrow." Then came the sound I expected, the click of the call ending. Except it never came. Instead, I heard rustling, then my mother's voice again, but with a completely different tone. Gone was the warmth, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Got it," she said clearly, no longer speaking to me. "Amanda sent the money." My father's voice came through next, distant but clear enough. "How much this time?" $400. "Not as much as we needed, but it will do for now. We can ask for more next week." I should have hung up. Some part of me knew that whatever I was about to hear would change everything. But I remained frozen, phone pressed to my ear, heart beginning to pound. "Did you have to lay it on so thick?" That was Cassandra's voice, followed by what sounded like a derisive laugh. "You are our lifesaver," she mimicked our mother's tone with cruel accuracy. "It works, doesn't it?" Mom replied, and I could almost hear the shrug in her voice. "She eats it up every time, always so desperate for approval." "Cue the waterworks next time," Dad suggested. "Tell her we might lose the house. That always opens the wallet wider." I felt physically ill, a cold sweat breaking out across my skin. This could not be happening. There had to be an explanation. Perhaps they were joking their way of coping with the embarrassment of needing help. Perhaps. Then came the words that shattered any possibility of misinterpretation. "She actually thinks we love her," Dad's voice contemptuous and hard. "She was a mistake from the beginning. We never wanted a first child. Remember how we had to cancel that trip to Hawaii when we found out you were pregnant?" My mother laughed, the sound now jagged and unfamiliar to my ears. "God, yes. And then she turned out to be such a serious, boring child. At least Cassandra has personality." "Amanda is so easy to manipulate," Cassandra chimed in. "Just mention family and she whips out her credit card. Remember when she sent her entire tax refund because I said I wanted to take classes?" "Which you never took," Dad said, and they all laughed. "I bought those Jimmy Choo shoes instead. Totally worth it." The conversation continued, but their voices began to blur as blood rushed in my ears. I heard snippets about my engagement, a goldmine if we play it right, and plans to convince Will and me to invest in Dad's fictitious business venture. They discussed how they might extract maximum financial benefit from our wedding, with Cassandra suggesting they could guilt her into a luxury honeymoon for the whole family. "We need to be careful, though," Mom cautioned. "That fiancé of hers is getting suspicious. He might turn her against us before we can really cash in. She is too pathetic to ever cut us off." Dad dismissed the concern. "Her whole identity is built around being the responsible daughter, the family savior. Take that away, and what does she have?" "Nothing," Cassandra said, and they all laughed again. I do not know how long I sat there, phone clutched in my trembling hand, tears streaming silently down my face. Minutes, perhaps. Long enough to hear them move on to discussing how to spend the $400 I had just sent dinner at Antonio's, suggested Cassandra, before I finally found the strength to end the call. The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at the phone in my hand as if it were a venomous snake. How could I have been so blind, so stupid? Every sacrifice, every struggle, every moment of pride in being the one they could count on, all of it built on a foundation of lies. Memories began to resurface, reframing themselves in this terrible new light. The forgotten birthdays, the constant emergencies that never seemed to resolve, the way they perked up when Will's career was mentioned, the expensive purchases in their home, despite their supposed financial crises, the way Cassandra always had new clothes while claiming to be broke. I stumbled to the bathroom and barely made it to the toilet before throwing up. Wave after wave of nausea hit me as the full implications became clear. My entire relationship with my family, the central pillar of my identity, was a carefully constructed manipulation. I was not their beloved daughter, I was their personal ATM. Not their lifesaver, but their meal ticket. As the physical sickness subsided, an emotional numbness took its place. I sat on the bathroom floor, back against the cold tile wall, feeling as though the ground had disappeared beneath me. Who was I, if not the daughter who took care of her family? What was my purpose, if not to help them? What had I sacrificed my own dreams, my financial security pieces of my relationship with Will for a lie? For people who saw me as nothing more than a resource to be exploited? For a family that considered my very existence a mistake? I do not know how long I sat there, frozen in shock and grief. The bathroom floor became my island of misery, the four walls containing a pain too vast to comprehend. Everything I thought I knew about myself, about my family, about love and loyalty had been upended in the space of a single forgotten phone hang-up. Eventually, I heard the front door open and close, Will returning from his evening run. I should get up, I thought distantly. I should wash my face, put on a brave expression, pretend everything was normal. But my body refused to move, as if accepting that there was no going back to normal. Not ever again. Amanda, Will's voice called from the living room, then with more concern as he moved through our apartment. "Amanda, where are you?" When he found me curled on the bathroom floor with tear-stained cheeks and vacant eyes, he dropped to his knees beside me, panic evident on his face. "What happened? Are you hurt? Should I call an ambulance?" I looked up at him, this man who had tried to warn me, who had seen what I had been too loyal or too blind to see. "They never loved me," I whispered, my voice cracking on the words. "I was just a bank account to them, a mistake they learned to profit from." As understanding dawned on his face, I finally broke, completely collapsing into gut-wrenching sobs that seemed to tear from the very core of my being. Will gathered me in his arms, holding me as my world continued to crumble piece by jagged piece. The next 3 days passed in a blur of grief that reminded me of the stages of mourning, though what had died was not a person, but my understanding of my entire life. I cycled between denial. They must have been joking. They did not mean it, anger. How dare they use me like this? Bargaining, if I confront them, maybe they will explain. Apologize, prove it was all a misunderstanding, depression, nothing matters, no. One really loves me, and back again. Acceptance seemed like a distant, impossible shore. On the morning after the devastating phone call, I called my office with a shaking voice and requested emergency personal leave. My boss, hearing the obvious distress in my voice, approved a week without pressing for details. Will offered to work from home to stay with me, but I insisted he maintain his normal routine. I needed space to process, to think, to begin the painful work of reconstructing my sense of self. The first day I barely left our bed, drifting in and out of fitful sleep, punctuated by periods of silent tears. Will would check on me, periodically bringing food I could not eat, and water I barely sipped. He did not push me to talk, simply offering his presence as an anchor in my storm. On the second day, my phone began to light up with texts from my mother asking if I could help out again because Cassandra needed money for a job interview outfit. The sight of her name on my screen sent me into a panic attack so severe that Will found me gasping for breath on the bedroom floor. That night, after helping me through breathing exercises and finally getting me to eat half a sandwich, he broached the subject we had both been avoiding. "Amanda," he said gently, sitting beside me on the couch where I had relocated, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm apartment, "I think we need to talk about what happened and what you want to do next." I looked up at him, feeling hollowed out. What is there to do? My entire family has been using me. Everything I thought I knew about them, about myself, was a lie. Will took my hand, his expression serious but kind. "That is why we need to talk about it, because this changes things, and you need to decide how to respond." Respond. The word seemed inadequate for the magnitude of the situation. "Yes. Will you confront them? Cut contact. Pretend you never heard. These are all options, but they will have different consequences for your well-being." I had not thought that far ahead, too consumed by the pain of betrayal to consider my next steps. Will's practical questions forced me to begin thinking beyond the immediate emotional devastation. I don't know. What would you do?" I asked, realizing as the words left my mouth how much I had come to trust his judgment over my own when it came to my family. Honestly, I would cut them off immediately. No warning, no explanation, no chance for them to spin more lies. The anger in his voice was evident, though carefully controlled. "But this isn't my decision. It is yours. They are your family, however, undeserving of that title." His words sparked something in me, a need to understand not just what had happened, but why. That night, after Will had gone to bed, I found myself researching financial abuse within families. What I discovered was both validating and heartbreaking. The patterns described in psychology articles and support forums matched my experience with uncomfortable precision. The escalating demands, the guilt manipulation, the way financial support became an expected obligation rather than a gift. The emotional blackmail. One article led to another, and soon I was reading about adult children of narcissistic parents. Again, the descriptions fit like puzzle pieces clicking into place. The golden child Cassandra and the scapegoat me. The conditional love based on usefulness. The inability to see children as individuals rather than extensions or tools. The lack of empathy masked by superficial charm. By dawn, I had filled a notebook with insights and revelations, tear stains dotting the pages. For the first time since the phone call, I felt a flicker of something beyond despair. A sense that what had happened to me was not unique, that there were frameworks to understand it, and most importantly, that others had survived and even thrived after similar discoveries. On the third day, I made two decisions. First, I called a therapist specializing in family trauma and scheduled an emergency appointment. Second, I resolved not to react immediately to my family. No angry confrontation, no tearful accusations, no cutting them off without preparation. Instead, I would protect myself while developing a longer-term plan. I showed Will the notes from my research when he returned from work that evening. "I think I need professional help to process this," I told him. "And I think I need time to figure out how to respond in a way that won't leave me vulnerable to more manipulation." The relief on his face was evident. "I think that is incredibly wise," he said, "and I will support whatever approach you decide to take." That night, we sat together and took practical steps to protect my finances. I changed all my banking passwords and set up two-factor authentication. I froze my credit to prevent any new accounts from being opened in my name. I reviewed my credit report to ensure there were no unknown accounts or debts. I created a separate email account for financial notifications to ensure no one else could access or delete them. As I took these concrete actions, a strange calm began to replace the emotional chaos of the previous days. There was power in protection, in recognizing the abuse and taking steps to end it, even if those steps were still invisible to those who had harmed me. My mother texted again that evening, "Amanda, we have not heard from you in days. Is everything okay? We could really use your help with the utility bill this month." I stared at the message, feeling a complex mix of pain, anger, and a new emotion I struggled to identify. It took me a moment to recognize it as clarity, the fog of manipulation finally lifting to reveal the stark reality of our relationship. I did not respond to the text, nor did I answer when she called an hour later, leaving a voicemail that escalated from concerned to irritated to guilt-inducing in the span of 30 seconds. For the first time in my adult life, I was setting a boundary with my family, even if they did not yet know it. "I will not react yet," I told Will as we lay in bed that night. "I need to be strategic, not emotional. They have been playing this game for years. I need to make sure that when I make my move, it is one they cannot manipulate or dismiss." He pulled me closer. "What are you thinking?" I took a deep breath, the outline of a plan forming in my mind. "I am going to wait. Wait until they ask for money again, which we both know they will, and then I will be ready." Ready for what he asked. I closed my eyes, feeling stronger than I had in days. Ready to take back my life. Ready to show them that their mistake is not as easily manipulated as they thought. For the first time since the devastating phone call, I slept through the night dreamless and deep. 1 week after discovering the truth, my phone rang with my father's number. I had been expecting this call. My lack of response to my mother's texts and calls had clearly triggered their next escalation tactic. I answered with a neutral hello, keeping my voice carefully steady. "Amanda," my father's voice boomed through the speaker, concern dripping from every syllable. "We have been worried sick. Your mother is beside herself. Are you okay?" "I am fine," I replied, the words feeling strange in my mouth. How long had it been since I had spoken to him without automatically deferring to his authority? Just busy with work. "Too busy to respond to your mother, that is not like you." The hint of disapproval was familiar, designed to trigger my guilt response. This time I recognized the manipulation for what it was. "What can I help you with, Dad?" I asked, cutting to the chase, rather than apologizing as I normally would have. There was a pause, as if my direct approach had thrown him off script. Then he cleared his throat. "Well, since you ask, we are in a bit of a situation. Your mother needs some medical tests." "Nothing to worry about," he added quickly. "But our insurance deductible is $2,000. We just do not have it right now." $2,000. The largest single request they had ever made. The escalation was exactly as I had predicted. "That sounds serious," I said, keeping my tone concerned. "I would like to help. Can we meet in person to discuss it? I will drive up this weekend." Another pause, longer this time. Meeting in person had never been my response to financial requests before. "You do not need to do that. You can just transfer the money. I know you are busy." "I insist," I said firmly. "If Mom needs medical care, I want to be there. I can come Saturday around noon. I will bring Will too." "Will?" My father sounded distinctly uncomfortable now. "He does not need to come. This is family business." "He is going to be family soon," I countered, "and I would like him there." After some more resistance that I calmly but firmly overrode, my father reluctantly agreed to the meeting. As soon as we hung up, I called Will at work. "They took the bait," I told him. $2,000 for supposed medical tests. We are meeting them Saturday." "Are you sure you are ready for this?" Will asked, concern evident in his voice. "I am more than ready," I assured him. "I have spent the past week preparing." And I had. Following my therapist's advice, I had documented every financial contribution I had made to my family over the past 5 years, totaling over $40,000. I had gathered bank statements, text messages, and emails showing the pattern of requests and my responses. I had recorded the fateful phone conversation where they had revealed their true feelings, saving it as evidence. I had also consulted with a lawyer specializing in financial abuse cases. While she had explained that legally recovering the money would be difficult without written agreements, she had helped me prepare a formal letter demanding repayment of a portion of the funds and outlining consequences if they refused. Most importantly, I had worked through enough of my initial shock and grief to approach the confrontation from a position of strength rather than raw emotion. My therapist had helped me see that my worth was not determined by my family's assessment, that their betrayal reflected their character, not mine. Saturday arrived and Will and I drove to my parents' house. I had asked a third person to accompany us, my lawyer, who waited in her car down the street ready to join if needed. Will carried a small recording device in his pocket legal in our state, with one-party consent. As we pulled into the driveway, I took a deep breath. Ready, Will asked, squeezing my hand. Ready, I confirmed. My mother opened the door with her arms outstretched, performative concern on her face. Amanda, we have been so worried. You look thin. Have you been eating? I accepted her hug without returning it, noting the expensive new watch on her wrist. I am fine, Mom. Shall we sit down? I want to discuss this medical situation. My father and Cassandra were waiting in the living room. My sister looked nervously between our parents, a guilty flush on her cheeks. She knew something was off script. Before we talk about the money, I said once we were all seated. Will, beside me on the sofa, I wanted to ask how you spent the last $400 I sent. My mother blinked, confusion crossing her face. The property tax payment, of course. Why would you ask that? I nodded, my expression neutral. And before that, the $1,200 for Dad's specialist. Amanda, what is this about my father? Interrupted, irritation replacing his initial concerned facade. We did not ask you here to account for every penny. We have an urgent situation. Yes, Mom's medical tests. The $2,000 deductible. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Before I write that check, I thought we should review some things. I opened the folder and removed several printed documents. This is a record of all the money I have sent in the past 5 years. $42,300 to be exact. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. My mother's solicitous smile vanished. My father sat up, straighter, eyes narrowing. What is this? Some kind of audit? We are your parents, not your clients, he said, voice hardening. And this, I continued, ignoring his comment, and pulling out my phone, is something I think you should hear. I pressed play on the recording from the week before. Their own voices filled the room. She actually thinks we love her. She was a mistake from the beginning. Amanda is so easy to manipulate. Just mention family and she whips out her credit card. She is too pathetic to ever cut us off. The color drained from my mother's face. Cassandra made a small, choked sound. My father lunged for the phone, but Will moved quickly to block him. You recorded us. That is illegal, my father sputtered. Actually, it is not, I replied calmly. You called me, forgot to hang up, and continued speaking on an open line. Single-party consent applies. I was that party. This is ridiculous, my mother tried, her voice trembling slightly. You are taking things out of context. We were just blowing off steam. Really? Were you also just blowing off steam when you spent the emergency medical money on dinner at Antonio's? Or when Cassandra used my tax refund for Jimmy Choo's shoes instead of classes? Cassandra burst into tears. I am sorry, she sobbed. They made me do it. They said you owed us because you got all the opportunities. My father turned on her. Shut up, Cassandra. No, let her speak, I said. I would like to hear this. Between sobs, Cassandra revealed a pattern of manipulation that extended beyond me. My parents had trained her from childhood to see me as the enemy, the favored daughter who needed to pay for her privilege, when in reality they had been setting us against each other while exploiting us both. You never even wanted me to get a job, she cried. Every time I tried, you said Amanda would cover the bills. You said I deserved to enjoy my youth because Amanda had ruined yours. My father stood abruptly. This is enough. I want you both out of our house. Gladly, I replied, standing as well. But first let me tell you how this is going to work from now on. I pulled out the letter my lawyer had prepared. This is a formal demand for repayment of $20,000, half of what I have given you over the past 5 years. You have 30 days to either pay in full or agree to a payment plan. This is absurd, my father sputtered. We do not have that kind of money. Really? The new television moms watch the kitchen renovation I noticed walking in, they suggest otherwise. But if you truly cannot pay, the alternative is that I will file reports with the IRS regarding the unreported income you have received from me, since I know you have never declared these gifts on your taxes. My mother gasped. You would not dare. I would. Additionally, I will share our story with evidence on social media tagging Dad's employers, past and present, the church you attend, and all the family friends who think you are such wonderful parents. The threat of public exposure seemed to hit harder than the financial demands. My father's face turned an alarming shade of red. You ungrateful little. He began, taking a step toward me. Will immediately move between us. I would not finish that sentence if I were you. My father backed down, looking between us with naked hatred. After everything we have done for you, he hissed. Everything you have done for me, I repeated, maintaining my composure with effort. Like calling me a mistake. Like using me as your personal bank account. Like planning to exploit my wedding and my fiancé. I picked up my bag and turned to leave, then paused. You have 30 days to contact me with your decision. After that, my lawyer will proceed accordingly. As we headed for the door, Cassandra rushed after us. Amanda, wait, I want to talk to you. Without them, please. I looked at my sister, really looked at her for the first time in years. Behind the designer clothes and the practiced pout, I saw something I recognized, the desperate need for approval that had driven my own behavior for so long. Call me tomorrow, I told her. From your own phone, not theirs. Outside safely in our car, I finally allowed the emotions to surface. My hands shook as I fastened my seatbelt. I did it. I whispered, tears springing to my eyes, but different tears than before. Not of devastation, but of relief, of liberation. Will started the car but turned to me before pulling away. You were magnificent. How do you feel? I considered the question seriously. Lighter, I said finally, like I have been carrying a boulder for years and finally set it down. As we drove away from the house that had never truly been a home, I did not look back. The road ahead might be uncertain, but for the first time in my life it was truly mine to choose. 6 months passed, like the turning of seasons, each day, a small healing each week, a new layer of understanding. My therapist called it reparenting myself, learning to provide the love, validation, and security that my biological family had never given me. Some days were harder than others. There were mornings when I woke up reaching for my phone, automatically checking for texts from my mother before remembering everything that had happened. There were nights when I dreamed of reconciliation, of apologies, and understanding, only to wake with the hollow ache of what would never be. But there were beautiful days too. Days when I realized I had not thought about them at all. Days when I made decisions based solely on what I wanted, not on how it might affect my ability to send money home. Days when I looked at my reflection and saw not the mistake my father had called me, but a strong, compassionate woman who had survived a lifetime of exploitation with her capacity for genuine love still intact. My parents never responded to the repayment demand. After 30 days, my lawyer sent a follow-up letter which also went unanswered. In the end, I decided not to pursue legal action or public exposure. The freedom from their manipulation was worth more than the money, and engaging in a protracted battle would only keep them in my life longer. As my therapist pointed out, sometimes the price of peace is walking away without everything you are owed. Cassandra did call the day after our confrontation, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. We met at a cafe halfway between our cities, and for the first time we talked honestly as adults, not as competitors in our parents' twisted game. She had moved out of their house, was staying with a friend, and had found a job at a local bookstore. It was an entry-level position, but it was honest work earned on her own merit. I always envied you, she admitted over coffee. You escaped. You built your own life. They convinced me I couldn't do that I needed them. That you owed us because you were ruining their lives by existing. They told me the same about you, I replied. That you were too fragile, too sensitive, that I had to be the strong one, the provider. We both sat with that revelation, the realization that we had been pitted against each other by design, neither of us, truly the favorite both of us used in different ways. I am sorry, she said finally, for my part in it, for the things I said, for the money. I know, I told her, and I did. She had been as much a victim as I had, shaped by their manipulation from birth. The difference was that she was younger, with fewer ingrained patterns to overcome. What matters is what you do now. We did not become instant best friends, our history too complex for that kind of simplicity. But we began building something new, a tentative relationship based on honesty rather than competition. I helped her create a resume and practice for job interviews. I connected her with resources for therapy. What I did not do was give her money. When she asked in a moment of weakness, I gently reminded her that true help meant supporting her independence, not creating a new financial dependence. Will and I were married that spring. Not the lavish event my parents had hoped to exploit, but a small, intimate ceremony with people who truly cared about us. Will's family, my few close friends, and yes, Cassandra now, 3 months sober, after acknowledging the drinking problem she had developed under our parents' roof. As I walked down the aisle, not on my father's arm, but escorted by Will's kind-hearted father who had asked if he might have the honor, I felt a sense of completion. Not because my family drama was resolved neatly, that kind of storybook ending rarely happens with toxic family dynamics, but because I had stopped waiting for it. I had built a new definition of family, one based on mutual respect, genuine care, and healthy boundaries. The professional help I sought became a cornerstone of my healing. Through therapy, I learned that my value was never tied to my usefulness, that love is not measured in dollar signs, and that family is defined by actions, not blood. I learned to recognize the patterns of manipulation that had once seemed normal, to identify the red flags I had been conditioned to ignore. This growing awareness led me to create an online support group for others experiencing financial abuse from family members. What began as a small forum grew into a community of hundreds sharing resources, validation, and hope. In helping others navigate their own painful journeys, I found purpose in my pain. Will notice the change in me over time. You laugh more easily now, he observed one evening, as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset. You take up more space. I considered his words, recognizing their truth. I had spent so long making myself small, contorting myself to fit into the box my parents had designed. Learning to expand, to breathe fully, to exist without apology, it was like discovering a new country within myself, vast and unexplored. I spent my whole life trying to earn love that was never actually available to me, I told him, leaning my head on his shoulder. I thought if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, they would finally see me. Really see me. And now, he asked softly. Now I know that some people are incapable of that kind of seeing. Their limitations are not my failure, and real love does not require you to bleed yourself dry to prove you deserve it. That realization became my guiding light. Real love builds, it does not deplete. Real love encourages growth, not dependence. Real love sees you for who you are, not what you can provide. The pain did not disappear entirely. There were still holidays that echoed with absence, still moments when a song or a scent would trigger memories of what I had once believed my family to be. But the pain changed shape, became something I carried, rather than something that carried me. A part of my story, but no longer its defining feature. I sometimes wonder if my parents ever reflect on what they lost, not the money but me, their daughter, the relationship we might have had. I doubt it. People capable of the manipulation and exploitation they practiced rarely possess the self-awareness necessary for such reflection. And that perhaps is the greatest tragedy, that they will never know what they threw away, what they could have had if love had been more important than exploitation. As for me, I am no longer defined by being someone's mistake. I am a culmination of my own choices, my own values, my own hard-won wisdom. I have created the family I deserved all along, filled with people who see me, value me, and love me, not for what I can give them, but simply for who I am. The money I once sent home now funds my future educational pursuits, my passion projects, and occasionally, when the situation truly warrants it, help for Cassandra as she continues her journey toward independence. The difference is that now it is my choice made from a place of strength rather than obligation. In the end, I learned that family is not a guaranteed safe harbor simply because of shared DNA. Family is a privilege that must be earned through respect, reciprocity, and genuine care. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to recognize when those elements are missing and have the courage to build your family of choice. I am no longer a mistake. I am a gift to those who deserve my love, and so are you. If my story resonates with you, know that you are not alone. Have you ever felt used by those who should have loved you unconditionally? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story helped you recognize toxic patterns in your own life, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear these words. Remember, healing begins when we realize we deserve better. Thank you for being part of my journey, and I wish you strength on yours.